Sunny Street Detectives. Where is Bulut? It was a bright morning on Sunny Street, but Bulut wasn't feeling the sunshine. He sat on a bench, pressing his hand against his cheek with a grimace. His friend Aris was nearby, completely absorbed in testing a new app on his tablet. "Bulut, you haven't even touched your ice cream," Aris noted, peering over his glasses. Bulut didn't answer. He just let out a low groan as a sharp throb raced through his jaw. Maya, always the most practical of the trio, didn't need to ask what was wrong. She stopped scribbling in her notebook and pointed a finger toward the town square. "That is a classic cavity groan," Maya said. "We need to get you to Dr. Toothman's clinic before it gets worse." The moment Bulut heard the word dentist, his eyes widened in terror. "No way! Never!" he yelled. Before they could stop him, he bolted from the bench and sprinted away as fast as his legs could carry him. Aris and Maya watched Bulut disappear around a corner. "We can't let him wander around with that kind of pain," Maya said, her funny demeanor replaced by determination. Aras adjusted his glasses and tapped a sequence into his tablet. "He's wearing his smartwatch. I can track the GPS signal, but it's moving fast. We're going to have to use our best detective skills to corner him." They tracked the signal to the neighborhood park where the trails seemed to go cold. Maya scanned the ground and spotted something near the sandbox. She knelt down and picked up a large magnifying glass. "This is Bulut's," she said, showing it to Aris. "He must have dropped it when he realized we were close. He's panicked, which means he's probably heading for his ultimate hiding spot." Aras squinted at the tablet as the red dot on his map finally stopped moving. It was hovering over the old warehouse at the edge of the district. "I've got him!" Aras exclaimed. "He's gone to the warehouse. He thinks the thick walls will block my signal. But he underestimated my new antenna." A confident smile spread across his face as he led the way. When they reached the warehouse, the heavy door was slightly ajar. Maya stepped inside first, her voice echoing in the rafters. "Bulut, we know you're here. Hiding won't make the toothache stop." There was a quiet rustle of cardboard, and Bulut's head slowly appeared from behind a stack of old wooden crates. He looked exhausted, still clutching his swollen jaw. "How do you always find me?" he asked with a sigh. Aras walked over and sat on the dusty floor next to his friend. He didn't lecture him. Instead, he opened a video on his tablet. "Look, Bulut, I did some research. Dentists use these tiny high-tech tools now. It's actually pretty cool technology." He showed Bulut a colorful animation of a tiny robot cleaning a tooth. Bulut watched the screen, his grip on his jaw loosening as his curiosity began to outweigh his fear. Maya stepped forward and crossed her arms, giving Bulut a supportive smile. "And besides," she added, "Dr. Toothman is known for telling the worst jokes in the world. They're so bad they actually make you forget you're at the dentist. If you go now, I'll even let you lead our next detective mission." Bulut took a long, shaky breath and looked at his two friends. "Okay," he whispered, "but you have to stay in the waiting room." A short while later, they were in the bright, modern waiting room of the dental clinic. Bulut started to fidget again as the sound of a distant hum reached his ears. Maya quickly grabbed a comic book from the table and sat next to him. "Check this out," she said, pointing to a funny drawing of a superhero with a giant tooth for a shield. Bulut chuckled, and the tension in his shoulders finally began to melt away. The appointment was over before Bulut even realized it had truly started. He walked out of the exam room with a bounce in his step, holding a tiny plastic container. "It was just a tiny pop," he shouted happily. "I didn't feel a thing." Aras gave him a high five. "Our lead detective is back in action," Aras cheered. Bulut beamed, realizing that the scary monster in his head was much bigger than the actual dentist.